The higher earner in a married couple should often wait until age 70 to claim Social Security, but not simply to get the bigger check for themselves. They may be protecting the spouse who outlives them. And if you don't understand why, you could make a claiming decision that costs your households tens or potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars over retirement. I'm advisor Andy. On my podcast, Inspired Money, I recently brought together 3 nationally recognized retirement experts for an episode called Social Security at 62, the $214,000 mistake most couples make. The panel featured Beth Franklin, one of the country's leading experts on Social Security and Medicare, Wade Pfau, a professor and widely published retirement income researcher, and Andy Panko, a fee-only financial planner who specializes in retirement and tax planning. After the panel of Social Security experts, I sat down one-on-one with Joe Elsasser, CFP, founder and president of Covisum. Its planning software helps more than 20,000 financial advisors optimize Social Security claiming, taxes, retirement income, and investment decisions. Joe is also co-author of the book Social Security Essentials. In this video, I'm sharing 5 of the most important highlights from our panel discussion and translating them into a practical framework for coordinating Social Security with your spouse. You can watch the complete Inspired Money episode, including my one-on-one conversation with Joe, using the link below. But first, let's start with the question that most married couples fail to ask. Most people begin with, when should I claim my Social Security? But for a married couple, that's the wrong starting point. The better question is, what happens to our Social Security income when one of us dies? Because while 2 benefits may enter your household today, both checks generally won't continue after the first spouse dies. Typically, the smaller benefit goes away, and the surviving spouse continues with the larger benefit. That makes the higher earner's claiming decision much more than an individual break-even calculation. It can help determine how much income the surviving spouse receives for the rest of that person's life. Beth Franklin explains why delaying the higher earner's benefit can be so valuable.
But as Andy and Wade both pointed out, you cannot argue with the difference between claiming at 70 versus 62 means a 77% increase in your monthly Social Security income for the rest of your life. I defy you to find any other investment that's going to give you that kind of return. I think it's particularly important for married couples, and often they can have a split decision, have the higher earner, often the husband, wait till age 70 to maximize his retirement benefit, which in turn is likely going to transfer into the maximum survivor benefit. But in between, the wife may want to claim early just to bring some cash flow into the household.
Let's talk about why the 77% difference matters. Notice what Beth just did. She didn't ask how each spouse should maximize an individual check. She looked at what the household needs. Perhaps the higher earner delays to protect the larger lifetime and survivor benefit, while the lower earner claims earlier to bring cash flow into the household. For someone whose full retirement age is 67, claiming at 62 generally provides 70% of their full retirement benefit. Waiting until 70 provides 124%. That's where the roughly 77% difference comes from. And that larger benefit may continue as the survivor benefit after the higher earner dies. But this does not automatically mean that everyone should wait until 70. It definitely does not mean that both spouses should wait until 70. Beth describes married couples as planning across not 2, but 3 lifetimes.
I think married couples need to look at this as a household decision. Yes, you have 2 benefits, but really you're spreading the risk over 3 lifetimes. You have the husband, the wife, and then who's ever left behind with the survivor benefits. And I'll give you an example of a mistake. A girlfriend of mine, her husband delayed till 70, which really was appropriate for their situation since he was the bigger earner. And there were several years difference, age difference. And then she said to me, well, of course, I'll delay till 72 70 also. And I said, but your bigger benefit is as a spouse, up to half of your husband's full retirement age benefit. It does you no good to wait till 70 because that spousal benefit is worth the maximum amount at your full retirement age. So I do see while waiting till 70 can make so much sense for one spouse in a married couple, don't necessarily assume both spouses should wait till 70.
So we saw in that example why both spouses may not want to wait. That distinction is critical. Your own retirement benefit can earn delayed retirement credits until age 70, but a spousal benefit does not continue growing beyond the spouse's full retirement age. The maximum spousal benefit is generally based on up to 50% of the worker's benefit at full retirement age, not the larger amount the worker may receive after delaying until 70. The survivor benefit is different. It can reflect the delayed retirement credits earned by the higher earner. So delaying the higher earner's benefit can help protect the surviving spouse. But delaying purely to increase a spousal benefit beyond full retirement age does not. That's why a couple may use a split strategy. The higher earner delays while the lower earner claims earlier. But why does the higher earner's claiming decision carry so much more weight? Retirement researcher Wade Pfau explains what happens to those two checks after the first spouse dies.
It's because the higher earner's benefit will last. If the higher earner lives the longest, that's their benefit over their lifetime. But if the higher earner passes away first, their benefit becomes a survivor benefit for the spouse. So that's why it really lasts for their joint lifetime. And with the low earner, really their benefit's only going to last as long until the first person passes away, because that's where the low benefit no longer is relevant. The high benefit becomes a survivor benefit at that point. So that's really why there's that distinction and why there can be a much stronger case for the low earner in a couple to potentially claim at an earlier age.
Put simply, the larger benefit can potentially last until the second death. The smaller benefit generally lasts only until the first death. If the higher earner lives longer, that person continues receiving the larger benefit. If the higher earner dies first, the surviving spouse may step up to the larger survivor benefit. That's why delaying the higher earner's benefit can act like longevity protection for the household, particularly when there is a significant earnings difference, an age difference, or a good chance that at least one spouse will live well into their 80s or 90s. The decision isn't about whether the higher earner personally lives long enough to break even. It's about how long either spouse may need that larger check. That's the research. But what does it look like when a financial planner models it for a real couple? Here's Andy Panko.
Yeah, definitely. Like Mary Beth and Wade said, no surprise for married couples. Generally speaking, it makes the most sense for the higher earner to delay as long as possible because they're not just delaying their benefit while they're alive, but that larger benefit lives on for whoever the surviving spouse is, regardless which one. The smaller benefit in effect falls away. So if both spouses assume they were going to take at 62 prior to working with me or anyone else, and one of them ends up living till 90 something, well, showing them what this could look like if the higher earner had delayed as long as possible, that could be a really eye-opening moment for them. When the smaller benefit starts, I don't say it doesn't matter, but it's much less impactful, whether it's 62, 64, 67. I kind of leave that up to the client more or less and look to some of those secondary considerations like the tax planning benefits of having less Social Security so you can pull forward pre-tax stuff. There's a lot that goes into it, but generally speaking, higher earning spouse delay as long as possible.
Andy mentioned something that's easy to overlook. Social Security should not be modeled in isolation. If the higher earner delays Social Security, where will the household get its spending money in the meantime? Should the couple draw from a taxable account? Should they take distributions from an IRA? Could delaying Social Security create an opportunity to complete strategic Roth conversions before required minimum distributions begin? How will each strategy affect taxes, Medicare premiums, and the investment portfolio? And most importantly, how much income would remain if either spouse died? This is why a good analysis doesn't simply compare how much Social Security you collect by ages 80, 85, or 90. It models Social Security alongside the rest of the retirement plan. It also explains why the lower earner's claiming age can be more flexible. Claiming that smaller benefit earlier may bring cash flow into the household while the larger benefit continues growing. But before you walk away thinking, higher earner waits, lower earner claims early done, there's an important complication. This is the part where a good financial planner should stop you and say, hey, wait, not so fast. If the lower earner depends heavily on a benefit from the other spouse's earning record, and the higher earner dies while the lower earner is still relatively young, the timing of survivor benefits requires careful analysis. Mary Beth explains the risk.
Well, the one is where you have a couple where maybe the wife was not working outside the home or had a very small benefit or her own earnings record. So her bigger benefit is as a spouse. The one problem can be, normally I'd say, yeah, go ahead, claim at 62, have some cash come into the households. But if her benefit is on her husband's earnings record and he dies unexpectedly, and she's younger than her full retirement age, her spousal benefit automatically becomes a survivor benefit. And if she is younger than full retirement age, it means she will have a permanently reduced survivor benefit. So that's the one caveat when you're dealing with couples and talking about one spouse claiming early. You really want to look at health issues as well as marital status and other retirement income.
The broader lesson is that survivor benefits have their own claiming ages and reduction rules. A surviving spouse can generally begin survivor benefits as early as age 60, but beginning them before survivor full retirement age can reduce the monthly survivor benefit. Depending on the survivor's age and work history, there may also be an opportunity to take one type of benefit first and switch to another later. This is where the details really matter. How old is each spouse? Which spouse has the larger earnings record? Has either spouse already claimed? Are both spouses healthy? Is there a significant age difference? Does the lower earner have a meaningful benefit based on their own employment record? And what other income would be available if the higher earner died unexpectedly? You cannot answer those questions with a generic Social Security calculator or with a rule of thumb you read online. The familiar strategy, have the higher earner delay and consider allowing the lower earner to claim earlier, is a useful starting point. But it's not a complete retirement plan. There's no universal claiming age. The fiduciary shouldn't simply give you an age and send you on your way. They should model the household, both spouses, both earnings records, both possible orders of death, your taxes and investment accounts, and the income the surviving spouse would have left. Because the goal isn't to maximize one Social Security check. The goal is to build the best possible retirement income strategy for the household. If you want to hear the full discussion with Mary Beth Franklin, Wade Pfau, and Andy Panko, watch the complete Inspired Money episode, Social Security at 62, the $214,000 mistakes most couples make. We also have Act 3, which features my one-on-one conversation with Joe Elsasser, founder of Covisum and co-author of Social Security Essentials. Joe explains why Social Security should never be treated as an isolated decision and how coordinating it with taxes, Roth conversions, retirement withdrawals, Medicare, and your investments can produce a better overall retirement plan. I've linked the complete episodes below. And if you'd like help coordinating Social Security with your investments, taxes, and the rest of your retirement plan, schedule a call with me at inspiredmoney.fm/call. I'm advisor Andy. Remember, the goal is not simply to get the biggest individual check. It's to build a retirement plan that protects both of you, no matter who lives longer.